late Chief M.K. Abiola has been described as a man of many parts, a philanthropist of uncommon generosity, a great family man, a bridge builder, international citizens. Before he made a dash to be president of Nigeria, the late business mogul was always championing ambitious projects like the demand for reparations to Africa from Europe and the United States for the evils of slave trade. But it was at that point when he defied all the odds to declare himself president that the world knew that there was another layer to the man. That story has been told time and again, particularly by those who were truly close to Chief M.K. Abiola. We are now being joined for a discussion around this by Dele Momodu, a close confidant of Chief M.K. Abiola while he was alive, journalist, publisher of Ovation Magazine, and the chairman of Ovation TV and politician. Welcome to the program. When we say Bob D, and happy belated birthday, Bob D, when we say Dele Momodu, what comes to mind is that picture of M.K. Abiola in an open roof car raising up his hand, and Dele Momodu was there with him clutching onto the car. And that's to show you the closeness. It's a pleasure having you, sir. If you can hear us, I want to talk up to you about one part of M.K. Abiola that we don't talk about enough, and that the president mentioned today in his speech. That's about reparations and returning of our artifacts stolen by our colonial masters. You want to talk a little bit about that? The president also talked about this today, our cultural and historical heritage. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and how are you?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Yes, Chief Abiola did so much beyond being a businessman, a generous giver, and an activist, because he acted seriously and was asking for reparations for the slave trade that took place in Africa. I remember going with him to Senegal on one occasion. We went to Gorée Islands, where he wept openly when he saw the point of no return at Gorée Island, where slaves were loaded like sheep, and they were taken across the Atlantic Ocean. He did so much. In fact, there is a conspiracy theory that is probably one of the reasons why the West didn't want him to take power. And don't forget that Chief Abiola was already a very powerful man. He was stupendously wealthy, and then on top of that, he wanted power. The theory of power is that people who already have power hardly get additional power, especially political power, except in exceptional cases like the case of Donald Trump in the United States of America. So I don't know what happened, but I know that his life was cut short. And what makes it sadder is the fact that he was kept in prison. He suffered for no reason after winning the best election Nigeria had to offer.
Well, Bob D, thank you for joining us, and good morning. But I'd like to ask you, it's been 27 years since the annulment of that election, and 21 years since Nigeria's return eventually to civilian rule. Will you say that Nigeria has been fair to the M.K. Abiola legacy? Do you think that Nigerians have been able to achieve the objectives of his campaign, which was titled Hope 93? And do you think that Nigerians have learned any lessons in terms of the democratic journey that we embarked upon 21 years ago?
In summary, the answer is a resounding no. And as we celebrate June 12th today, it saddens me that we've not learned our lessons, we've not imbibed anything from what June 12th represented and represents. And I mean, what happened on June 12th? Nigeria conducted an election. 2 parties and 2 candidates went for presidential election, and 1 candidate was clearly in the win, and it was aborted. That was an abortion. And it's so unfortunate that instead of building on that legacy, that never again should we repeat that rascality. Things are probably worse today. You have an electoral body that is as useless as they come. You have over-militarization of what should be a simple election. Election should be a carnival. The election of Chief Abiola and Bashir Tofa was a carnival. We didn't need any security. People went about voting legally, legitimately, and in an atmosphere of peace. But today, what do we have? You cannot have a simple election, local government election. You must bring in the army. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, for those who say they are celebrating June 12th for us today, we thank them. For those who have honored Abiola with this June 12th holiday, we say thank you to them. They've played their part, but they can do better. The best way to remember June 12th and to compensate Abiola is by doing the right things. I always say it on personal note that anytime I try to help people, I look back at others who helped me. The best way to remember those who helped you is by helping others. So the best way to remember June 12th is to do June 12th appropriately.
Very well said, Mr. Dele Momodu. Now, as we are on the legacy of Abiola, I know we will never forget the legacy he's left behind, and he will always remain in our history books for a long time. Now, I know that you are one of his closest friends. I remember when Abiola declared himself president in 1994. What do you think the significance of that single gesture is for the history of Nigeria?
Well, you know, when you have situations such as this, in the days of tribulations, you run to the elders, and the elders will advise you. Some will say do it, some will say don't do it. But Abiola acted on the consensus that if the military would not allow him to take power voluntarily, he would have to take it his own way. Unfortunately, he didn't have a military backing. I've said it repeatedly in other interviews, that no civilian can take office, can take power without the backing of the military. You need force, and that is what he lacked, and that is what we lacked, and that is why we could not retrieve the stolen mandate. So declaring himself was only symbolic. It meant nothing to the authorities. Of course, he had to go into hiding for about 13 days. And by the time he finally came out, a few of us wanted him to disappear permanently, even leave Nigeria. You know, he had left Nigeria initially in 1993. I was in detention at Alagbon Detention Center when he took off. And we advised that he shouldn't come back, but he was tricked into coming back because I think the military suspected that if he stayed abroad, it would be more dangerous than being at home. At home, they know they could curtail and contain him. And that's what happened. So they tricked him into coming back. And unfortunately, that was how they were able to grab him. So the evening he came back home, police and the security people were patiently waiting for him on Tony Street. I was part of his motorcade. I was hanging to the left side of the open roof jeep, and there was another old man on the other side. So when we got to the main gate of Moshood Abiola Crescent, and we saw the pool of police officers ahead of us, the man on the right side asked Chief, "Are those people waiting for us?" And Chief said, "You shouldn't worry, I am their commander-in-chief." That was one of my last moments with him on earth. And then we drove into the gates of Moshood Abiola Crescent. Of course, there was a sea of people waiting. And the theory about those who advised him or misadvised him was that he could use human shield to protect himself. So they were cooking within his premises. Of course, Nigeria did not and still does not have a history of a sustained struggle. Elsewhere, people would have stayed there. We saw what happened in Hong Kong and places like that. People would have remained there all day, all night, and prevent the security people from getting hold of him. But that was not the case. As soon as people ate their food, had their drinks, they started going home. So the police waited them out. They waited patiently like the vulture. And then he told me to go home because I had not changed for 2 days and 2 nights prior to that date. I went home, came back. By the time I got back, the police had barricaded everywhere.
All right, Mr. Dele Momodu, we'll go for a quick break. We'll come back and you'll continue with that very important story. We'll be right back. Right, those are live feeds there from the home of Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola. The governor of Lagos State is just walking into that residence, that very famous residence. Let's see how this pans out. Dr. Abatiamin, this is...
Well, I think the thing to note, again, is that, as you said earlier, that Chief MKO Abiola had the common touch.
Yes.
As rich as he was, he chose to live among the people.
Yeah.
Right in the heart of the city in Ikeja. His neighbors were ordinary people.
Yes.
And even in Abeokuta, he didn't live in the government reservation area. He lived in the Bagura part of the town, right amongst the people. These days, we see a lot of privileged persons, even people who are even less privileged. Once they make a little money, they want to go and live in Banana Island. They want to isolate themselves from the people. But in MK Abiola's case, you know, he spoke like the people, he acted like the people, he lived among the people, and it's quite impressive to see that, you know, at a personal level, even now, his family remains in that part of town. Maybe there are also lessons beyond the political that many of us can learn from MK Abiola in terms of his humility, in terms of his connection with the people.
I mean, one thing that stood out for me, there was a party MK Abiola was, and the next thing he picked up the mic, he became the singer that day.
Yes, I've seen that video.
And he sang so well. Another thing about MK Abiola, he had a football club called the Abiola Babes.
Yeah.
There was a point that they had to go play a game in Zambia and Lusaka. MK Abiola himself, with his wealth and everything, personally drove the team bus there. That's to show you the kind of man.
Well, he's been described as a man of many parts.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the Abiola residence there. The commemoration of June 12 is in progress with the governor of Lagos State,
yes.
Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and other persons in attendance. And again, it's remarkable that social distancing and physical distancing is being observed. I can see most of the people there wearing face masks, which we're told helps significantly to reduce community transmission.
I'm trying to look for my own Tundu there with a part of my eye. But I've not been able to see my own Tundu there.
Yes,
but,
we hope that we get a chance to talk to her.
That's our father's house.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be there.
Yes.
And you can see the posters and pictures of the great man himself, MKO Abiola. I mean, another picture that stands out for me was the one he was wearing the SDP regalia.
Yes.
And he had a tessibue in his hands. You know, that's the, you know, sort of like the Muslim rosary.
Well, let's go back to Basharun Dele Momodu. Basharun Dele Momodu, are you still with us out there?
Yes, I'm very much with you and watching the governor of Lagos from here.
Yes, very good. Well, I think you may continue from where you start, but Rufai will have a question for you after.
I just want you to continue the story of how, when the people dispersed,
The police waited and they tried picking him up?
Yeah, so, of course, there were no mobile phones like now at that time in 1994. So, by the time I came back and they had barricaded the place, I had to go to a business center on Allen Avenue where I put a call through to the house. And I was connected to him, and he said, "Dele, where are you?" I said, "I came back and they didn't allow me to enter, and I am now calling from a business center." He said, Go home to your wife. I've been told they are coming to arrest me at 1 a.m. But I don't think Sonny can try it, oh. I don't think Sonny can try it. Those were the last words he said to me. And I was so devastated. I went home, couldn't sleep a wink. And first thing in the morning, I came out, got the newspapers, and I think the Guardian newspaper that they did even a third edition, breaking news. MKO Abiola arrested. And that was the beginning of our pain, deep pain. They drove him out and flew him to Maiduguri, from where, according to information, they drove to Damaturu, and from Damaturu to Gashua prison. That was the first thing we had. Then he smuggled out some letters to a few people, one of which was to Dr. Doyin Abiola, who was my boss, my managing director at the Concord newspapers when I worked at Concord. And she sent for me, showed me the letter in which Chief Abiola requested that I should come in a disguise and come with a camera and a voice recorder to see him in Gashua. So I went home, told my wife that I had to go on a special mission. My wife panicked. Don't forget, I only just got married less than 2 years earlier. But I told her, there's no way we can abandon Chief Abiola. We must go all out for him and support him also in his hour of need. So I got a thief outfit from Mr. Kunle Bakare, the publisher of Encomium. He had one, the one you tie around your body. And on my way to the airport, I reached out to Dr. Abiola that was going, and she told me that they've already moved him, and I never saw him again. I was looking forward to that opportunity to see him in detention, but it never happened. And that was it. Then the next thing is we kept, of course, doing the bit we could from that 1994 to 95 until the Abacha government, I got that they were going to arrest me again, and I took off. I had to go into exile, and for the next 3 years, I couldn't even come back to Nigeria.
Yes, indeed, Bashir Momodu, you took the famous Nadeko route. We're told dressed like a farmer. But if you may, from this point, share with us your own reflections in terms of the heroes and the villains of June 12. Because June 12 was not just an event. On June 12, 1993, it became a process. It became a concept. So how do you remember who the heroes and the villains are beyond MK Abiola? But let's go back to the Abiola residence, and then we'll come back to you.
Everything must have a beginning. Everything must have a root. And everything must end. So before I continue, let me thank every member of the family, our mothers, our sisters, our brothers. Thank you very much. You know, as we entered, I read this Let me not die, then die in groanlessness and without a struggle. But let me first do some great things that shall be told among men hereafter. Very interesting and very timely. So the root of what we are all benefiting today, this democracy, if we can still call it that, is why we're here today. And MKO symbolizes that, whether people like it or not. It's just a statement of fact. It's not something we can argue, something that happened. So whether you are now in support or not, it doesn't matter. It has happened. And I'm not sure the history of Nigeria can be written in 100 years' time without this event. So on that basis, even though it's a sad event, but the history of nations are littered with sad events that now lead to greatness. Our prayer is that it will lead to greatness for Nigeria, because we are not where we are supposed to be yet. And part of the reasons why we have where we are today is because of this type of injustices. Not just this one, many. So we just hope that we will learn from this and be able to continue to move on. Part of the reasons why, because somebody asked me yesterday, we are doing a webinar, and I think as of this morning, 2,037 people have registered to listen. We said June 12th, lessons and what we need to do to move on. And somebody said, why are you people fixated on June 12th? It's a young one. But so I realized that a lot of our young people don't even understand the history at all. At all. They don't even know. They just think Nigeria just exists and everything is just moving on. And so part of that 2,000 plus are students. We have our secondary students, university students, so that at least they can understand the history of our country. And they can learn from it and not make the mistakes that our own fathers made and probably that we are making now. So at least we can live a better country. So, on a day like this, it's always difficult to say the right words. I just hope I'm saying the right things. But it's just to say that I'm close to 1, 2, 3 of the children, so I don't need to mention it. And I asked him that, who are his friends? This was about 2 months ago. I said, who are his friends? So, and I like the answer. He said, Femi, it's a lesson for all of us. People will say all sorts of things, but do they mean it? And I think it's a lesson for all of us, including the children, the wives. Do we mean what we say, even when people are no longer here? So we want to pray again for the soul of our father. I know that is in our general friend house. I know. And I say that because in 1983, I was in University of Ibadan. I was a third-year student there. And we were doing this MSS, Muslim Students Association. I can't remember the name of the imam, but it's passed on now. And he was talking about MKO. And he said that the man will enter, he was still living then, of course. He said, whenever he died, he will enter. And so, as students, we were saying, who are you? Are you God? How do you know that? He now said that every Ramadan, that he will distribute materials, money from all the Ratibi mosques. I hope people know what the Ratibi mosques are. So all the Ratibi mosques and central mosques from Lagos go all the way. That the one is aware of all the way to Kwara State. He doesn't know if it goes across the country. He said, if you do that, even if you are a sinner, God will punish you right now, but you will enter a Jannah. I'm not sure, but that's what the man said. So we pray that Almighty Allah will then continue to be with the children and the grandchildren and everybody that is associated with him, and that his soul continue to rest in peace. Thank you very much. last minute coordinator, by the way. So sorry about my... But thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Governor, sir. So I would like to invite the oldest child of Chief M.K. Abiola, the Honorable Mrs. Ola Abiola Idewo, to give a vote of thanks on behalf of the family.
Good morning, Your Excellency. Good morning, Madam. Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, thank you. On behalf of every one of us, thank you. You were here last year. And last year, you made an equally touching speech. It is abundantly clear to me that you're a Muslim in the way that you speak and in the things that you say. In your consistency, it's very clear to me that you're a very consistent man. And equity, one's very big, a big ticket item for you. I thank you. I thank you very much. I thank the entire government of Lagos State, starting from His Excellency, Mr. Governor. I think that's how he wants to be addressed. Governor Sanyoli. I think each and every one of you who have found time to, found time to spend this moment with us. And like I said to the Deputy Governor when we came in, what we were told was that they wanted to keep it small. You wanted like 20 people. And that is why we thought we'll be compliant, That is what you requested. But this morning we were told that 40. And that is why the pro-democracy people are not here. And I believe that the reason you said 20 is because of the COVID situation, the pandemic situation, on ground, which we almost appreciate. But we've since called them, and I'm sure that maybe even before we leave, they will be here. Well, you raised something that I find really... A lot of people have also asked me the same question that you asked. But as Yoruba, they say, Kajikala, Kawen Kyosu Kwen, Karen Kakaseko, Kawen Toma Kinikwen, Monikuni, Koma Kwen, and it was Makuni, Holula, to shape your origin. But we thank God. We have a lot to thank God for. Because the truth of the matter really is that we all, Nigerians, are stood by this man, particularly the masses. All of those, activists, political activists, they have to. It is because of their consistency and their doggedness that this day is a public holiday. It's not really because of the Abiola family alone. It could not have been. But for the doggedness and the persistence of the masses of this country who kept the issue on the top burner. That truly is why it is a date in history today. So, my dad was one to say when he was alive, he says, my expect nítorí nǹkan kí nǹkan tó bá ṣe gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹ̀dá ó ṣe fún èèyàn torí Ọlọ́run ló ṣe ṣe tó bá ṣe so tó bá ṣe nǹkan fún èèyàn 1,000 téèyàn méjì bá tiẹ̀ rántí sọ thank you ìyẹn náà tó ṣùgbọ́n wá bọ́sì àwọn kan rántí ẹ̀ pọ̀ I mean we're very proud to have had a man like that as our father because some people died just 2 years ago 5 years ago and their history. Well, there is no day in this country that this man is not remembered. Alhamdulillah. We thank God. It just goes to me is a lesson for all of us that whatever it is that we have, the most important thing that we all can do and must do is to impact on the lives of others. And that he did to the breadth of his ability. So, I thank you again so very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. As the program was on, two of my brothers came in. Ayade Abiola, Abiola. Thank you very much.
So, to end this brief program, I would like to invite the Imam to please give us a closing prayer so that we end and we begin with God. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. We praise Allah once again.
Well, welcome back to the morning show. We're still here in the studio, and you've been watching proceedings on June 12 at the Abiola residence in Ikeja, Lagos. But we still have with us our guest, Basharun Dele Momodu.
Please.
Okay, please, if you could respond to the questions about the heroes and the villains of June 12. I think it's important for us to put everything in proper perspective.
Of course, you must start from the military. The military that terminated the best election ever. It's like killing your own child. What should have been the happiest day for Nigerians suddenly became saddest days. So the government of General Ibrahim Babangida, I'm still expecting that one day we will get to the whole truth, because nobody really knows what happened. We've listened to excuses right, left, and center, but I still don't know how anyone would have terminated that election. Then members of the political class, I mean, there were so many people who played different roles, either for good or for bad. But I would like to tell you about something that happened I think about 2 days after Abacha took power in 1993, November. Chief Abiola had called a meeting of his very close friends. I remember those who attended that meeting. There was Professor Femi Agbala-Jobi, there was Alhaji Tele Olukoya, there was Alhaji Shukwu Adetono, there was Miss Yabo Abuaba, and I was sitting quietly in one corner to listen to them. Chief Abiola complained that they had been shortchanged by Abacha. I think the plan originally, or how they deceived and scammed him, was to tell him that they needed to flush out Babangida boys from the military, those who could pose a threat to him if they gave him power. And he believed them. I think that was an error of judgment, believing that the military would come, spend a few months, flush out the Babangida boys, and then hand over power to him. So, but from the tone of the speech that Abacha made on the evening of his coup, it was obvious that they had no such plans. So Chief Abiola was furious, openly furious, and he expressed this much to his friends who were in the room with him. And I remember that one by one, the men stood up to respond. Alhaji Tele Olukoya, for example, told him, Basharun, you fought Babangida, he left office for you. You fought Shunekon. He has now left office. Now you want to start fighting Abacha. Don't you think you should reconsider that? The same thing was re-echoed by the other gentlemen in the room. In fact, I remember that Professor Abiola Jobi said he believed that Abacha was a pro-democracy soldier based on some of his speeches in the last 1 or 2 years. And Chief Abiola responded by telling them that he was not aware that Abacha was a pro-democracy soldier. And he mandated me that night to go and get a library. I went to Tell Library that night and gather all the speeches, make a photocopy of all of Abacha's speeches. So I went and came back in the morning, Sunday morning. By the time I came back, he was having his breakfast at Dr. Abiola's apartment. And he asked me to go and wait for him upstairs. Don't wink. You won't believe it. When he finally joined me, we went into his bedroom. I could see some frustration on his face. And he said, Dele One. He liked to call people by nickname. Dele One, have you heard? I said, heard what, sir? He said, Baba is leaving us. I said, who is Baba? He said, Baba Gana Kingibe. I said, leaving us to where, sir? He said, he's leaving us to join the Abacha government. I said, that's not possible. How can your vice president join Abacha government? He said he's confirming to me that it's not a rumor. Because I thought, big people like Abiola, they have different people coming to them to tell them stories all the time. He was right. He had this information. Then he said, have you heard another one again? I said, which one again, sir? He said, Ebino is going. Ebino, that's Chief Ebenezer Abatokwe, we all called him Ebino.
Ebino Topsy.
Ebino Topsy, I said, where is Uncle Ebino going? I said, that's one of the biggest radicals that we have. He said, no, Ebino is gone. Ebino is also joining the government. At that stage, I just sat down and I started looking skywards. That, hey, where do we go from here? Can I go on or we are back?
Please continue.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing. Okay.
No, just some excitement here seeing our colleague Tundu Abiola in our father's house. Yes.
So, Chief called a meeting of his political associates for that evening that they should come, and it was a disaster. Speaker after speaker stood up to tell them why they should take the appointments. If we don't take the appointments, the Yaradua group will take over power. I remember Alhaji Abubakar Rimi stood up and he said, yes, he's been in politics most of his life and he's not in politics because of anybody. Then names cropped up of some of those who will be joining government. Alhaji Lateef Jakode was going to join the government. There was Chief Oluonogorua, who was also going to join the government. And then there were a few non-politicians like Mr. Alex Ibru, who also joined the government.
We're not doing a break.
A decision.
Are we doing a break?
Hello?
Yes, we're with you.
Then the meeting took a decision that Chief Abiola should go and meet with Abacha and hope for a resolution of how to proceed from there. That is the picture, the popular picture that we all see of Chief Abiola walking in Northern Barracks or wherever they were at the time, with Chief Bola Tinubu behind them. That's the picture. So they went to see Abacha. Of course, by then, Abacha had consolidated power. By the time Chief came back, it was obvious that the military was not going to give him his mandate. So the battle started, NADECO was formed. I remember attending the first meeting at the home of General Adeyinka.
Well, thank you very much, Bashorun Dele Momodu. Very great reflection on the June 12 and its politics there. I think today it's also important to remember all the others. Chief Anthony Enahoro, Pa Ibrahim Adesanya, Senator Dan Suleiman, Chima Ugbani, Olisa Agbakoba, the media, in fact, as a whole institution, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Professor Wole Soyinka, and all the great Nigerians who fought that battle to get the military off the political space.